The one thing America does not need is a first and only black. It is in a way self-demeaning in that, well, I'm black but I did, as opposed to I'm an American and I did.
He was a really good father, good listener, gave a lot of care and attention.
Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom.
He was absolutely amazing Marine, amazing pilot, but a great dad as well.
Have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny.
My father is the epitome of the Marine Corps.
I've seen your honor, I've seen your courage, I've seen your commitment.
But nobody ever acted worried that, he wouldn't come home. We always knew that he was going to come home because that's what dads do.
As I trying to examine my life's past, I've never really fully understood some of the things that have happened in my career. My father was from St. Croix in the Virgin Islands, and my mother was from a very small town in the northwestern part of Kansas. I was born in 1932 and stayed in Topeka until the age of 18 when I joined the United States Navy. I then applied for the Naval Aviation Cadet Program. I did that by virtue of the Korean War, which had just started. The first black naval aviator was a guy named Jesse Brown.
He tells a story of how he, naval aviator, African-American aviator, got shot down, and he read the story that another pilot came in and sacrificed his aircraft to try to land and extract him from the aircraft as he was trapped in the cockpit. Dad read that story and he said, well, that's the kind of organization I want to be a part of.
Jesse died in the cockpit. His wingman subsequently received the Medal of Honor, Thomas Hudner. I read of that. I had no idea that blacks were being allowed to fly in the United States Navy. So I said, well, let me give it a try. I did, was commissioned in October of '52 and became the first black naval aviator in the United States Marine Corps. The military long desegregated under the Truman Edict.
He knew that he would have a fair opportunity, at least on paper.
There's the legal statements, there's the assertions publicly, but then there's a reality. And I think that he thought, yeah, it's open, I can do this, there's the path forward. But, I alluded to it that he took the exam twice. That wasn't because he needed to take it twice, he was made to take it twice. The first time he tested so well, the person giving him the test said, there's no way a black boy could have done this well, you must have cheated. So he had to take it again, and he did better.
And they asked him what he thought about it. He said he found the test unremarkable. Those kinds of things he felt good to prove that, you know better than I am, and perhaps I might even be slightly better than you in this regard.
In fact, during my training in Pensacola, Florida, on board the base, there was no segregation. You were pretty much an American citizen, but going on Liberty, on the city bus, you could sit wherever you wished to. Once that bus hit the main gate, then you had to move to the back of the bus.
He was treated very poorly, but his love for the Marine Corps overshadowed all that. He persevered through it all.
The resentment of others, because now here you are, a black man, you're doing the same thing they're doing, and it sort of put a lie to the fact that they were better and you were less. So these kinds of experiences, although negative, did help to shape the stamina and the desire to not quit, go out there and kick some butt. I had had enough of the South. When I received my orders from headquarters of Marine Corps on completion of flight training, the orders were to report to Cherry Point, North Carolina. On my request, they transferred me or changed my orders from Cherry Point, North Carolina to El Toro, California. And what I didn't realize that by going to El Toro, I was then put into the training pool for combat pilot replacement training. So I went from not being in North Carolina to 3 months later being in Korea. Flying combat missions, I was 20 years old.
To the north lies communist-held Korea. Directly in front of us is the neutral zone, an invisible barrier that divides a nation.
I was flying out of a base just to the south of Seoul, Korea, a place called Pyeongtaek. And we were flying Corsairs, and we were flying as far north as the Yalu River.
In 1953, when he arrived in Korea, his unit performed the traditional Marine Corps aviation mission of close air support, where they'd fly to a release point and then contact a forward air controller who would then guide them on the targets, or they would be like basically called on the pad, waiting for missions to come in, and then they would take off and go do those missions.
One of those missions, the leader, and I was flying the second section lead, his radio went out. I took over command of that particular flight, hit the target, and picked up some shrapnel along the way.
The enemy in Korea had the Marines pinned down. And that day, Dad was able to take out that enemy position through several passes with a battle-scarred aircraft, saved the Marines on the ground.
And on return, the squadron decided that merited me the Distinguished Flying Cross.
He was away a lot. He was a loving, caring father, but the absence was a sacrifice for all of us.
Renewed hostile actions against United States ships on the high seas in the Gulf of Tonkin have today required me to order the military forces of the United States to take action in reply.
Flew over 200 combat missions in Vietnam, picked up a squadron. It was the first time that a black had commanded a fighter squadron in either the Navy or the Marine Corps. Shot down north of the DMZ doing some close air support. And one of the guys got lucky, hit me, and the aircraft caught fire. The right engine was burning, so I shut that one down. Halfway back, the left engine caught fire. So I said, I'm running out of engines here. So I restarted the right engine. I figured, hell, it hadn't been burning that long, and got just enough out of it to get us back across the DMZ when the fire burned through. And the hydraulics went, the stick froze, and we had to punch out. As I hit the ground, there were some bad guys running around on the ground. At least I thought they were bad guys. So I rolled behind a little hump in the ground, because when the 46 came in, the door gunner was there with a 50 cal, and I figured they're going to take him on. Great, I'll see what happens. But it all turned out well.
And I came home one day, and I could smell him because he was taking a shower, and that Old Spice, I could smell the Old Spice. And I looked down the hallway, and I didn't make any noise when I came home. He just knew I was there. And he came out of the shower, he had his towel wrapped around him, and he stood there. And I remember I put my head down, and I just started running. I just gave him the biggest hug. I was so glad he was alive.
The effect wasn't immediately known. I received medical attention for scratches and bruises, but the long term led to 4 major operations: back, hip, knee. In fact, the left hip twice being replaced. So I was a little reluctant to take the Purple Heart initially, but over the years I said, I earned it.
When he had just gotten back from Vietnam, and when I looked at him, his face he was grizzled, and you could see the war on his face, and I almost didn't even recognize him when I first saw him until he smiled. And he had that great big smile. I'm like, oh, that's Dad, that's Dad. But very, very proud of the fact that I spent 38 years in uniform, 38 years. And the barriers that were overcome, I feel proud of having been a part of that. To put too much emphasis on the racial aspects, it's almost as if to say, wow, a black guy did this, a black guy did that. First this, first that.
It was a terrible time in our country's history. The trick is to not deny it. The trick is to not ignore it. It's to understand it and to embrace our history and make sure that we don't repeat it.
So I look back at my accomplishments, but I would prefer to compare myself in competition against those who are in my group, whether it's in a dogfight, a practice dogfight, or being selected for squadron command, air group command, air wing command. All of these things have never been done before by black. But if I were to say, okay, look, I did it even though I'm black, as opposed to I did it in competition with my counterparts. So I'm not being humble, but I don't want to overplay the issue that because you are black, then you have done something that no one else could have done. That's demeaning to me, so I don't go for that.
He's very humble, and also he hated the whole moniker of first black general. I know that he always put others before him, even in death. He knew he was dying, and at the time there was a backup at Arlington Cemetery. There was talk of, you know, his rank making him able to move up, and he said, not before anyone who was on the list before me. I will wait my turn, and that's what he did.
And I just remember that day saying, I'm not ready for this. But do you ever really get ready for the loss of your parent? You don't.
A great American died on Tuesday. Lieutenant General Frankie Petersen Jr., United States Marine Corps, retired. I knew Frank well. He was a humble hero. He didn't brag. He was a mentor to those who followed him in service. He was an inspiration and example to me. I thank him for his service and extend my deepest condolences to his family. As an example of selfless service, surmounting all obstacles and love of country.
But for every bad event that took place, I say bad event in terms of the things that may have happened to me, there are counterpoints. So it's sort of a balance, the good and the bad, but now there's a hell of a lot more good than bad.